Hey y'all, today I'm going to tell you about the time that I took the famous heroic dose, Terence McKenna's prescription of 5 grams alone in silent darkness. Welcome to my channel, Find the Others. I do trip reports like this and other videos relating to the psychedelic experience. We explore all of its wonders and mysteries, attracting seekers far and wide. If you found this video, chances are you're either curious or even passionate about the psychedelic experience. The goal of the channel is to unite the hardcore psychedelic nerds and psychonauts and share our reports of our investigations into hyperspace. Today, I'm retelling the story of my big heroic dose mushroom trip. I have a full version of this trip report on my channel where I go into full explanations of the backstory, my intention, and side tangents explaining things that come up. It just takes almost half an hour to do so. I'll put the link in the description if you want to see that full video. But this video is getting straight to the meat of the story. This is my heroic dose odyssey. After I took the dose of mushrooms, which is almost 5 grams, I was sitting in a rocking chair that I got from my grandma. And one of the things I heard Terence McKenna talk about is that he thinks about things before the trip comes on, about all the ways in which he's a terrible person or any of his anxieties and fears and stresses, and just kind of get that out of the way so that it doesn't come up while you're actually on your trip. So I did that, and then I sit in the darkness and wait. When the trip started coming on, I had my eyes closed and lights started to fly by. It was like warp drive was kicking in. Here comes hyperspace. This is like the transition point for your internal hallucinations. Normally when you close your eyes, behind your eyelids is black and dark. You don't really see anything most of the time. This is like the pixels becoming illuminated for your hallucination screen. I felt now that the trip is definitely here, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I felt like I was in the presence of something or someone. This is a phenomenon I experienced in other mushroom trips to a lesser degree, where I felt like I was almost seeing myself from behind my own head, like a second perspective. If you've ever seen those Alex Grey paintings where you see like the Godhead behind the artist who's painting, it was almost like that, but it felt like it was simultaneously outside of me and also my perspective at the same time. Very strange feeling. So at this higher dose, this feeling was even more intense, and I felt like I was sitting in a room with another intelligent being. At this point, I had been listening to Terence McKenna for about a year, so I had a lot of his ideas in my head that the mushroom could be this kind of intelligence and presence and have a voice. And so I wanted to investigate that in a high dose, and let me tell you, it worked. When the trip was really coming on and I felt like I was surely in the presence of some kind of intelligence, I presented a question that I had burning inside. I asked, how do I know my ancestors? Just like a Google result, I got an answer within a fraction of a second. Their art was what I heard. In short, art is the best thing that we have to experience other people's lives and expressions, like that of our ancestors. This also opened up my idea of what I consider an ancestor. Not only do we have our genetic ancestors, but also the ancestors of our ideas, the ideas that we build on. For me as a musician, all the bands from the past that I listen to, those are my ancestors. For people like us, Terence McKenna is an ancestor of our ideas. The next thing I did was put some music on. So I know this kind of breaks the protocol for Terence McKenna's silent darkness part of the heroic dose, but I'm sure he would let this one slide because of what happened next. The music was on just as I was approaching my peak, and I put on the song Me Yesterday / Corded by Flying Lotus, and this part came on. With my eyes still closed, I felt like I was blasted into deep space. I feel as if I'm part of this giant green wave or some kind of cosmic jet that's shooting out, and it's all connected to the music. It feels like the bass in the song is actually vibrating this green wave thing. It's like a giant string, and I felt like I was simultaneously, I felt like I was that green stream, but I was also riding this thing further into space like some kind of trippy cosmic water slide. I get to my destination, which is just this empty void in space, and now instead of propelling forward, I'm just kind of sitting still in this spot. And it was almost as if I had gotten to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But instead of a pot of gold, what I saw was this mysterious looking symbol type of thing. It was a stack of hexagons that went like this, and I was looking around through space, through this, and I realized it must be some kind of space telescope. What I saw was a stack of hexagons, and they were made out of the same neon green material that wave was that I was riding just a second ago. And this neon green ethereal material is a common thread in a lot of my other trips. I was looking through this telescope and I saw stars in my crosshairs. The stars were oriented in a perfect 3D grid or lattice. Each star through my telescope was blinking red, green, and blue. This was very odd considering that my very first trip was taking morning glory seeds that have LSA in them, and my first hallucination on it was I saw a 2D grid of hexagons that were also red, greens, and blues. But this time I got the intuition that what I was looking at were these stars blinking these different colors. It indicated to me that these were signs of the elements that support life, or even life itself. It gave me the impression that life and the conditions for life are extremely abundant in the universe. It was actually answering another question that I didn't remember to ask the mushroom, which was something I was desperately dying to know, is there alien life out there? And according to this vision, yes, there is a ton of it. Because of the cosmic nature of the visuals and the feeling like there's an entity present, the tone of the mushroom trip grew even more cosmic and sci-fi and alien and weird, which is a thing that Terence McKenna also describes. After the space telescope, I was shown like this cartoon image of an alchemist toiling away and transforming materials in his cauldron. I got the impression that alchemy was a primitive or even childlike attempt at something we should still be doing as a species. So, in my shortest possible definition, alchemy is the transformation of materials, and the mind of the alchemist is projected onto this process. The alchemist refines their soul in this manner and takes the base material of pain, suffering, and decay and transforms it into enlightenment. So I didn't know that alchemy was important to me at this point. I had heard Terence McKenna talk about it a little bit, but this was the first time that it became apparent that I really need to pay attention to this stuff. As the cartoon alchemist was working, I saw what he created, and he had created the Philosopher's Stone, or the lapis it's also called. And this is kind of the main objective of alchemy. The stone is spirit trapped into matter. It's a representation of the vibrance and refinement of the human soul. The stone was a complex and colorful object when I saw it. It almost looked like a Texas-shaped blob, and it was almost like PlayStation 1 graphics, maybe a little bit better. Just like alchemy is refining these lower emotions and aspects of consciousness, I saw all of that contained within the stone. I could actually see different things inside of it, like that it was made out of sweat and blood and tears and even snot. And this happened to resonate because on high doses of mushrooms, you're actually kind of like sniffling and you have runny nose and stuff like that. So it was almost like it found a way to infuse that into my vision. I also remember seeing a lot of elements inside of the stone, like electricity and fire and some smoke and some water, and it was all just churning inside. And the part that didn't have the elements, the other part of the stone, it was just like colorful fractals, like the fractal graphics you see on computer animations. So like I said, I didn't think of alchemy much at all before this experience, but now after having read and learned about it and realizing how integral it is to Terence McKenna's ideas and Carl Jung as well, I see it as almost necessary for psychedelic explorers to look into this stuff. I go into a deep dive on how all of this relates to the idea of the collective unconscious and how all of these kind of visions and things have been leaving me clues over the years and over different experiences. So I made a series about that on my YouTube channel. It's a 3-part series called Breadcrumbs to the Unconscious. It's almost kind of like a psychedelic origin story. So the rest of my trip, I just kept trying to get comfortable and relax, but I was not able to do so. So I was just kind of laying in bed and listening to music. I was listening to the George Duke album, Masters of the Game, and there's this one part in it where he makes his keyboard sound like an actual UFO, like descending and landing. And it was just so on point. It like kind of shocked me because it was like not even an album that I knew, it was just one that YouTube was playing. And my trip had such a strong sense of like alien outer space quality to it that it like almost freaked me out that I would hear the sound of like a UFO in this song. So the ending of my mushroom trip was actually kind of rough because I was ready for it to end because of how intense it was, and I started to think how I wanted to call my friends. I felt like I couldn't call my friends because I felt as if I wasn't a good enough friend to them. I felt like I hadn't been putting enough effort towards our friendship for them to even owe me talking to me or, you know, hanging out with me at this time. It was like I had been so engulfed in my psychedelic world and my friends weren't as into it, so I feel like I was neglecting my friendships and not watering those plants as you should with your relationships. It made me realize that I had been a kind of bad friend, and it was really hard to face that down during the experience, but I'm glad that I did because it ended up making me change for the better and nurturing my friendships. Thankfully, my good friend answered the phone and we did get to hang out and just kind of relax as I was coming down from the trip. So that's the gist of the trip, y'all. I have the full version on my YouTube channel and the playlist full of other trip reports if you're interested in that, so check all of that out. If you made it this far, I really appreciate your time and attention, and it would be really awesome if you subscribe to the channel as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.